Hey there, Tian here, and I am so excited to share with you this bonus episode of the Real Talk with Tian podcast. We are talking with Rachael Reese about her journey as a homeschooling mama and knitwear designer and how the course Pattern Graded Made Easy has given her her time back from grading a hat pattern taking her a week to now just a few hours. Keep listening. Real Talk starts now. Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Real Talk with Tian podcast. This is a podcast dishing all the dirt on the realities of running a creative business. My name is Tian, and I'm a designer, technical editor, and business coach. See, since leaving corporate almost a decade ago, I've been doing this amazing work full time. It hasn't always been easy, but it has always been totally worth it. Over the years, I've had the amazing opportunities to work with hundreds of makers just like you and tons of big brands. This has given me a front row seat to what it takes to be successful as a creative business. With this podcast, I'm drawing back the curtains to share with you the behind the scenes of the realities of what it's really like, what it takes to run a successful and fulfilling creative business. Welcome to the conversation. Grab a cup of tea or your favorite beverage. It's time for some real talk. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Rachael. I am so thrilled you're here to share your journey and the role Pattern Graded Made Easy has played in your journey, because we have knitters and crocheters out there listening in who wants to start designing, and maybe they have been designing, but now they're thinking maybe we should talk about pattern grading or should get into pattern grading. And your journey might just be that thing that helps them to take that next step. Welcome, and thank you for being here to share your journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
First, let's start with your pronouns.
Okay. She and her.
Okay. And tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Rachael Reese, and I'm a mom of two boys. I homeschool my youngest, and I also, in homeschooling my youngest, I left my work as a grief counselor and was home and kind of going nuts, and so I started September Knits. Because I've been knitting since I was like a kid, and now September Knits turned a year old in December, so I'm new and having a good time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects do you like to design?
Sweaters. I love knitting sweaters. And my first pattern ever was a sweater, which is crazy. Like, I think a lot of people start with a shawl, where you don't have to grade, even though you can grade shawls as well if you make multiple sizes. But yeah, I started with a sweater. I love knitting sweaters. But as I'm designing and learning how to design, I'm also appreciating designing shawls, and I have quite a bit of them.
What made you decide to join Pattern Graded Made Easy? What were you struggling with when the course came out, and what made you say yes, raise your hand, invest in yourself and in the course?
Yeah, so I know this is not like a visual podcast, but I am holding a binder of all these papers that have a million scribbles, and just, I was a mess. My grading process was a complete mess. And when you write it all out like this, which is what I was doing, there's so much room for error and things would get lost. It was just kind of a nightmare. Like, I was doing it because I did Hyla, my first sweater pattern, but it was just a mess. And so I really wanted to be taught how to kind of streamline the process. I knew it didn't have to be as difficult as I was making it. And so I just really wanted like a better process. And so when I saw your course offering, I was like, yep, I need that.
But it is an investment. I mean, you could have just kept on just doing it the way you were doing, and you could have gone to blog posts, or you could have done a million other things just to kind of figure it out on your own. What made you say, yes, I am ready to learn from someone else instead of just trying to like trial and error?
I guess I learned better this kind of being in a class setting with it interactive, with you as an expert. I guess there are blog posts out there that can tell you how to do things, but I learn better with the interaction. And for me, like, since taking this course, every hat pattern I've only done 2 since, and now a sweater. Like, I literally go back to your course every time. And like week 2 is kind of cowls and hats. So for me, it's just, I learn better going through the way that you've structured it. And also the way that you talk is very encouraging and supportive. I swear you always know what to say. And so I don't know, that your style of teaching, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it really resonated with me and helped me learn better than, I guess I can't learn very well by just reading a blog post. I need the interaction of the class. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And that's why I did include visual tutorials that kind of walk you through the different steps, especially with the spreadsheet, because I could just write a blog post and say, click here and click there. But when you see it in like a video format of me actually clicking and the exact formula I'm putting in, I hope that kind of helped to let everything kind of click for you.
Exactly what I needed. Yes. That is like worth so much. I don't even know how many times I've watched that where you set up your Excel. Like, I literally watch it every time I start a new pattern, and it's just so helpful.
Great.
I'm so grateful that I could kind of, the way you've set up your classes is we can go back. Like, we don't only have it until a certain date, because this is like something I'm going to be using for, forever. Like, right. I'll always go back and reference. Yeah.
Right. And one of the things I really wanted to highlight is we start out pretty easy, with like a cowl and a hat. And for a lot of people, that could just be where they stop. Yeah. But I also wanted to give the opportunity, if you wanted to go into garments and if you wanted to explore something else, there's that too, as far as what the techniques are. And it all builds on each other. Yes. So if you're, like you're saying with lesson 2, you keep going back because you're doing hats. Once you start doing more sweaters, you'll be able to just go back to your records and go through those lessons again, because they're yours forever.
Yes. So right now I am writing a sweater pattern, and I started with week 3, which is talking about the schematics. Can I talk about the course?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So week 3 talks about like garments and schematics and kind of sets it up. And then week 4 expands. And so instead of doing sweaters how I usually did, which was a disaster. I mean, it worked, but it was just really messy. Like, I would write the pattern for my size only and then expand. And the way that you have taught me is you start with the schematic. So all sizes first, and then build the pattern off of that, which, oh my gosh, it cuts so much time out when you do it. It's way more efficient that way.
And it's easier to see where all the different sizes fits in, because if you're making just your size and then you decide you want to do a bigger size, what ease are you building in? Or
yes, exactly. Like, visually, it's so much better to have it to start at that point, instead of doing it backwards, which is what I was doing. So so right now with my new sweater pattern, I like set up the schematic from week 3, and I'm still kind of going through week 4 with it. So sweater is like very fresh for me, because I'm doing, like, I did the course, like I went through the course, all the courses before, but for me it's like really starting to cement, because I'm doing it with a pattern at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through round one back in late 2019. So, and we're now in the end of February 2020. So it's been a few months. So you keep going back to the lessons, trying to refresh your mind as you're doing the different steps again. Do you have a process in place that you now can just go to, or rather, do you have like a spreadsheet template that you use for yourself?
So no, I need to do that. What I'm doing is every time I start a new spreadsheet for each new pattern, but I just had this thought last night of like, I need to have something that I go to, like a template that I start. And I think you do that in week 4, you have like a template. And so see, it just takes a long time for things to sink in for me. I think because like my son, he has sensory processing disorder. So my days are kind of a whirlwind. Mm-hmm. And so with dealing with life, right, as we're all dealing with life, it just takes a while for things to sink in. So that's another reason why I'm so grateful that I can like keep going back to refresh myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So building on that, if you just make yourself a template, especially when you start doing garments, instead of constantly flipping back and forth between the resources, build your own template so you can have all your measurements all in one place. And then you can just flip to one thing. Instead of going to CYC and some other resources, you have it all in one place. And that will help you to kind of make sure that you're using the same frame of reference every time.
Yes.
Makes sense? Let's go back to some of the other questions. What was your main concern that prevented you from joining, or would have prevented you from joining Pattern Graded Made Easy? Were there any fears that you had before you said, yes, I want to join?
Yes. And the fear came true. So no, it's okay. It worked out. But I was scared because my life with my youngest, I have an older son too, but he goes to like traditional school. I thought I was scared that I wouldn't be able to participate in real time in the like live Facebook group part of it.
Okay.
And that ended up happening, and I felt really bad because I fell behind. But I reached out to you. You were very supportive about that. And then after that, I think you created the Selfguided course. And so that really, even though I missed the live interactions, which I think is really meaningful to kind of connect with people. The Self-Guided course really, I guess, fits my life right now really well. So yeah.
And it's designers like you that really pushed me to actually create that self-study version, because life happens to all of us. I mean, right. I talked about last fall 2019, where I had to take time off because I had a sick parent who's out of state, an hour away. Oh. And I was still able to do different things for my business because I had programs in place and processes in place. And that's some of the things that I want to teach other designers. If you need to step away from your business, you need to have processes in place. And by creating templates and creating processes that you can go back to over and over, you have that consistency along the way. So if something happens, something happens to your son where you have to kind of take some time off, you can go back to that spreadsheet and know exactly where you left off, or your schematic and see exactly where you left off.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So given all that we've learned about your journey from before you joined, what surprised you the most or made you the happiest about joining Pattern Graded Made Easy?
I guess for me, I have a hat called Blakely, and it was just for 2 sizes, I think I did. And in week 2, like already, I was really surprised by this, like already in week 2, it took me an afternoon because of your course and how you set things up. I was able to grade from baby to adult large in an afternoon. And for me before with my process, like it was at least a week to grade stuff. I know. So like, for me, it was like, oh crap, like this is the answer. Like it really just like, it just changed everything for me. And that was starting in week 2.
And
So
that surprised me because I didn't think you were going to say a week. I thought you were just going to say, maybe 2 afternoons. But I'm impressed.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. And it was like good grading. Like it went to the tech editor and they were like, great job. And I was like, yes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's another bonus too. If you have a tech editor that charged by the hour,
Yeah.
that cuts down a lot of time, especially if you could just send them your spreadsheet so they can see what you did and kind of look at, where there might have been a mistake or something like that.
Yeah.
So having that spreadsheet, you can definitely go back and pinpoint exactly what you did, where you made a mistake, send it off to your tech editor.
Exactly. Instead of,
So
I know
fast.
people can't see this, but instead of me trying to find the right papers and scribbles, like it's all in one place. So yeah.
I know it sounds kind of funny, but I used to do that and it's not really funny. I mean, it's devastating if you come into my office and I used to have a ton of papers like that, right? And I
Yeah.
have dog, I have cats, and they would go on my desk and all of a sudden things go missing. There's a little chewed up piece of paper on the floor.
Right.
There goes my grading.
Yeah.
So can't really do that with a spreadsheet.
Right. I think, it does, obviously it does work because I did do um, a sweater that way. But it's just so much more efficient to do the way that you taught. And I am just like, I am a note taker. Like I have notepads and notes, but to have the grading set up in this very structured, streamlined way, it just makes everything so much more efficient for me. And if there is a problem, like you said, I can reference it so quickly instead of like, okay, now what page was that on? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So for someone who's on the fence about joining the next round of Pattern Graded Made Easy, would you recommend the course? And if so, what are 3 benefits you've experienced as a result going through the course?
I would 100% recommend, and I do, because I've shared on Instagram, people have reached out to me about it, and I'm like, yes, 100%. It just literally changed everything for me. It made the process, the way you walk us through each step was exactly what I needed. It just really resonated with how I learn. Um, And so I'm more confident in my grading now because of this process you have created. Um, so there's that, there's confidence. It's streamlined my process to where I'm not crying if I lose a paper or like that something's wrong, but I can't tell where I made the error. Because of course errors happen when there's all those numbers, like it happens. Um, and yeah, things are just so much quicker for me, as I said, like from a week to an afternoon. It's just so, especially because I have such limited time because my main thing right now are my young kids. And so and we have therapies for my youngest, and so it just really has like changed my whole designing and has made me more confident in my work, which, I mean, can you put a label on that or a price? You really can't, because
No,
it's
you
just,
can't.
yeah, I just am so grateful for you and your encouragement, and like all your Instagram posts. I'm like, how does she know what to say? You're just so good. So
And
good.
it's funny you're saying that because when we start the course in the week before we start lesson 1, I do send out some questions about how you're feeling, what fears you're having, what you're struggling with. And I do go back after the course ends and I go back and read what people were saying and how you're talking about the process at the end. And for you, I could definitely see that it was like, okay, you came in, you were frustrated, you were like,
Yes.
pretty much like you said, like in tears about the whole process.
So
And then
frustrated.
afterwards, we can really see that you've blossomed. You've just had this confidence about yourself. And I really appreciate you sharing all that because I think when I post on Instagram about the confidence that people will get from the course, they're just thinking, okay, well, it's blah, blah, blah. But I think it's so important if you want to make this a business, if you want to make this your next career, that you
Yes.
really need that confidence to be able to go and do that thing, to take that next step, to reach out to a publisher. Because if you're still
Yes.
scared in your little box, you're never going to take that step.
Exactly. And just like the efficiency of the process, like I was accepted to a submission for a hat pattern, and I just was able to do that pattern like so much easier. And then they came back to me and they're like, we really actually want this in a different weight, because I wrote the pattern for fingering and they wanted DK. Because of how you taught me, I was able to do it. I didn't have to freak out, right? Because it's like now I can go back to my setup and I was able to do it.
Yeah, you probably just changed the gauge, and then everything just kind of like whoop, 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 changed.
Exactly. It's magic. Yeah, and I'm not a computer savvy person, and so Excel has always been very challenging for me. But again, the way that I loved how you like started with a blank Excel in the week 2, and you literally show us each way. For me, that was just, again, exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
It was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. So we're going to start wrapping up.
Okay.
But this has been an amazing conversation, and I'm just so thrilled to have been just a tiny, tiny sliver of your journey to a grade-in pro, right?
There is nothing tiny about your influence in my life right now.
But I mean, there's just so much out there for you, and I'm glad that you're able to get that pattern regraded in the afternoon, and just be able to like not freak out for a week that, oh, I have to really knit a whole sample. You were able to just go through your spreadsheet and just make that change. And I'm just so proud of all that you've done. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience and
thank you
and everything. So before I let you go though,
okay,
tell us about what's coming up next. Where can people find you on social media, Ravelry? What pattern is coming out next? Are you going to be in a magazine? We want to know it all, so spill it.
Okay. I have 3 patterns coming out in March, which is kind of a lot and awesome. I have a collaboration with Lobby Enemy, which is amazing. And my friend Jensen of Sugar Plum Circus and I have a sweater coming out, and another collaboration with a Canadian yarn company called West Coast Color shawls coming out. So my plan is to keep designing. I really love having an image in my head and then trying to figure it out. And I just love knitting, love designing. I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah, you'll keep hearing from me.
Yeah, so quick question. Did you have these collaboration before you started the course? Or did the confidence that you gained was like, okay, help you to push you to go pursue some of those?
I don't think I had started the course yet. I know for sure. So this other, I was accepted. My submission was accepted. This is one magazine. That was a direct result of me reworking my Blakely hat through your course. And I had a hat pattern idea in mind for this magazine. And I had the confidence from that experience with your class, with grading all the sizes, because I expanded the size range in that hat pattern. And so I submitted to that magazine. And that's the one that was like, hey, we actually also want this in another way. And I was like, okay. Right? And that was like a direct result of doing your course, the confidence from your course. And also I got to meet with you kind of as a business coaching too in the beginning of the year. And that really also gave me so many, like I have a list of things that I'm working off of for this year. So just so grateful for you, really.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. And I can't wait to see all the other things you do. So tag me on social media when things happen, because I want to share it and keep track of what you're doing.
Okay, I will.
Thank you so much for being on here, and I really appreciate you. A big thank you to our special guest for coming on and sharing so candidly her experience with the Pattern Graded Made Easy course. If you're a designer and you want to take the next step, you're ready to level up your designing, join Pattern Graded Made Easy today. Go to tianconnaughton.com/pattern graded made easy to enroll today. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to another episode of the podcast all the way to the end. Everything we mentioned will be listed in the show notes at tianconnaughton.com/real talk with Tian. If you have questions on anything I've mentioned, or if you just want to book a coaching session, go to tianconnaughton.com/contact-us to get in touch. You got this.